And welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Goal podcast. Uh, Third day in a row we're putting out a podcast from the Passing Drill Studios. You're joined by Steve and Dan. Dan, what are your thoughts on this so far?
Mate, it's all happening, 3 episodes in 3 days. We started the first one on a Friday, after work. Saturday, Sunday, another episode. Look, I'm going to have to quit my job, I think. I don't think I can go to work tomorrow knowing that that's probably going to mean that we're not going to get another podcast out. Steve, are you the same? Or
Well, when we get more than 10 views on these, you can start thinking about that. But for now, it's just a hobby. And I don't think we can keep to this schedule. So we'll have to probably go back to once a week, maybe twice a week, but we'll see how we go. Got to watch a lot of football.
Depends.
So
It depends, mate, what happens. The world of football is it's an ever-changing environment, and there's always something exciting to talk about. So just depends. But just while we're on that note, let's just put a plug out there. If you like what you've heard so far, give us a like, give us a subscribe, go hit us up on our socials. We've only been doing this for 3 days, but we like what we're doing, and we hope that you out there might start liking what we're doing too. So let us know. Well, Stephen, though, what are we doing here today? There's an exciting game coming up tomorrow, isn't there? Cup final.
Yep. So today we'll be previewing the Liverpool versus Chelsea game, and that'll lead on to Roman Abramovich, and then we'll talk a little bit about Marcelo Bielsa and Leeds United, and then after that we'll just go through a few of the title races in the leagues around Europe. So just starting off with Chelsea Liverpool.
Sounds good.
You're a Chelsea fan. What do you think of this game? What's going on with it?
Well, so just for all these out there that might not have heard, so it's the Carabao Cup, which is an English competition, cup final. Yeah, so Liverpool Chelsea. It's going to be a good game. Two competitive teams coming up against each other. Two of the big teams in England and in the world. Just a little bit of background on the cup. So there's a lot of sort of different levels, teams that come into the cup at the start and sort of filters through. But we've got two strong components that have made it all the way to the end. And it's going to be a cracking final. Chelsea been a bit struggling in form of late in this season. Hasn't been quite what we saw last season. Well, towards the end of last season when Tommy T come in. But a little bit of form coming up. And if you look at the stats, we haven't lost that many games out of our last few. And then Liverpool, they're a well-oiled machine. Clinical performances from them in the last few weeks. And I know we just mentioned, Leeds United, and well, there was a 6-0 thumping that Liverpool put on against them. So, I think they're in good form. Steve, what's your take on it all?
On Liverpool or
just the tie in total, Liverpool Chelsea. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those League Cups that no one really cares as much about. But
here we go.
I don't know. It's like it's not the FA Cup either. So it's sort of the fourth tournament they have on their schedule as a Premier League team. So I just wanted to ask you though, before we get into the lineups.
I'm sorry, that's cold, man. I know it's not a Champions League, it's not Premier League, but I think you'll be careful using the word that no one cares about, because that's just not true, man. You don't watch these games, obviously. There's full stadiums that come, and there's full stadiums that come, and some of the big teams, I don't think they take them seriously, and that's fair. And you see that with some of the performances they put in against some of the clubs that are coming up from, the Championship or some of the lower divisions in England, and they get knocked out, and it looks bad for them. And some people go, oh yeah, we didn't play the most strongest team. And in all fairness, Chelsea might rotate a few of the youngsters in the earlier rounds of the competition. However, as it progresses, it actually starts to step up, and there's big teams that play in it. So we're taking on Liverpool tomorrow. I don't think it's fair to say that no one cares about this game, because Liverpool Chelsea, it's going to be a big game.
Well, let's just say that you would much rather have an FA Cup or Premier League than this.
No.
Little tournament.
What's the difference between an FA Cup and this? It's the same. No. it's still, I understand the FA Cup maybe has some more prestige with it, but it's hard for us
Absolutely.
sitting here in Australia to make a comment like that. I just think, man, you got to be careful. We don't have a big fan base. We might have a big, hate base. I don't know with the comments you're throwing out there, mate.
I think people will send you more hate mail for saying soccer instead of football, but we'll move on.
Yeah, well, I just want
uh,
to just add on that note, just in the semis of this game, Chelsea, come up against Tottenham Hotspurs, who, as a club, we're rivals. We hate Tottenham. Shout out to Tottenham, great performance last night. But that was insane. So Tottenham in a struggling patch of form. So Chelsea come out and put this, and we were struggling ourselves. It's a good time to show some strength. We got them 2-0 in the first leg, and then 1-0 in the second. And that 3-0 aggregate win, that meant so much for the club. It boosted confidence, and it was a big thing. So, just wanted to put that in there.
well, okay, let's just get to that question then. Who needs this more for their season, Chelsea or Liverpool? I know Chelsea just won the FIFA Club World Cup, but it kind of looks like they're out of the Premier League title race. They're currently 16 points behind Manchester City. So it's not looking good for them there.
Mm-hmm.
And Liverpool still have a chance for the league. They're 6 points behind with a game in hand. Who needs this more for their season?
I like that you mentioned the game in hand for Liverpool, but don't mention the 2 games in hand for Chelsea, which means potentially only 10 points behind the current leaders, the team that we beat in the Champions League final when no one thought we could. It still could happen. But to be honest, that's a hard one. I think in recent years, Liverpool has been, like I said, such a well-oiled machine, so strong. I don't think they've got much left to prove. I think this year, they're still in the Champions League. There's a chance they might be able to take that out. There's so much that could still happen. I don't think they need this to prove anything as such, and I think they're confident. They look like a confident team. Chelsea, on the other hand, we just won the FIFA Club World Cup. We won the Champions League just gone. Officially have won, every sort of trophy that's been available to the club in the last sort of 20-year period. So in that regard, you might say Chelsea doesn't need it. However, Chelsea is struggling at the moment. Premier League might be a hard stretch this year. Don't know what's going to happen. Champions League, I think we could do some silverware just to put some confidence back in the team. But both teams want it, and both teams are going to be fighting hard for it. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, take us through the lineup for Chelsea then.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the interesting one. How is Chelsea going to line up? And this is probably the big question, I think. Regarding the centre forward. So Chelsea played so well with Kai Havertz playing the false 9 in the game just gone against Real. And I don't know, Chelsea looks like the Chelsea a little bit from last year. It was exciting football up front with Pulisic coming in on the left and Hakim Ziyech on the right. It looks good. And it's something, they look fluent, something that we haven't seen with, the really expensive Romelu Lukaku playing in that number 9 position. So this is going to be interesting because these are the games that you spend that money on a striker. These are the games you want that, 100 million plus striker to come in and perform. I personally want to see Kai Havertz start. He played well. He's confident. He is the future of the club or part of the future of the club. And Romelu Lukaku is not confident. I don't think it's our best option. Now, whether that's going to happen, I don't know. We saw what happened earlier in the season when Tommy T didn't want to, play Lukaku or, after he come back from injuries and he was getting sort of subbed on 10, 15 minutes left in the game and the sort of trouble that caused. And some agreements, been made between the two. And whether that be that, Lukaku gets game time, and it sure looks like that regardless of form, because he did play a long stretch of games with no form. But we've got to remember the last game that Lukaku played, he played 90 minutes and he got 7 touches of a ball, one of those touches being kickoff, so really effectively 6 touches of a ball. That's not going to do it against Liverpool. You got Virgin van Dijk in defence. He's going to absolutely... Virgil, sorry. Like I said, pronunciation is, pride myself on that here. But he's going to absolutely love to see Lukaku come out for this game because in form Lukaku, he would give any centre back a nightmare. But a Lukaku that's been struggling so much, already you're disadvantaged in the game because you're nervous, and the defender will know that. So I'm hoping, we're going to see a Kai Havertz in the centre. Christian Pulisic played a brilliant game in the Champions League. First leg tie the other day. So tie as in game, we didn't tie, we won 2-0. I'd love to see him start out there on the left. Hakim Ziyech injury, I'm not too sure what's going on with that. So him out on the right, if not, Mason Mount is back, and I think Mason Mount should start the game in that position. Kovacic did pick up a little injury in that Champions League game. However, he's been back training. I do think that he is the better option for the Liverpool game. When we played Liverpool in the Premier League last, remembering Kovacic scored that brilliant backpedaling volley, but he started over Jorginho purely because he has the pace. Jorginho will get lost in the midfield a little bit, I think. So I think we'll start with Kante and Kovacic in the middle. Reece James has been back in training. I don't think you want to be starting him in a game like this, coming back after injury. So I think we will see, Cesar Azpilicueta starting in the right back position. I'm thinking we're going to see a back four potentially due to that, not the wing back system. Just because if it was Reece James and Chilwell in form, not in injuries, we would play obviously with the wing backs. But Azpilicueta and Alonso, or even Sarr, they're not our top quality options for that. So I think we'll start with a back four with those two playing in there. Thiago Silva in the middle, Rudiger will be there. Mendy between the sticks. And yeah, you might see some variation in that. And what's your take on the Liverpool lineup? I don't know if you know enough about Liverpool to comment on that.
I don't follow too much of Liverpool, but they've got a great squad. Here, I don't know the usual lineups, but obviously Alisson Becker, he's just such a great goalkeeper. I was going to ask you about the goalkeeping situation for Chelsea though, with Mendy and Arrizabalaga. So what's going on there?
So I think it's no secret that Edouard Mendy has come into this team and become the best goalkeeper in the world. Obviously, the Ballon d'Or doesn't think so. I don't really understand that. But I think it's undisputed. He's the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment. He's in form. He's great. He come in at a time where I think, Chelsea's defense, we were struggling. This is at the start of last season because we weren't confident because the keeper behind us, Kepa Arrizabalaga, again, sort of rolled the tongue wrong.
Arrizabalaga.
Mate, you just say it so nicely. He just wasn't confident, and that made our backline not confident. We struggled as a result. We were just giving up easy goals. So Mendy's come in, he's stabilised the squad, and he's become way bigger than we thought. I think it's fair to say he come in the squad as a sort of interim sort of thing. Initially was the plan, while we got some confidence back into Kepa. However, he cemented himself as, the Chelsea number one keeper with the number 16 on his jersey, and also is the best keeper in the world. And in this time, Chelsea has had in the past, Chelsea's had a bad habit of, buying a player they don't live up to what we bought, and they sort of shun them. Their careers go down the drain, and we sort of give them away for free. It happened to Fernando Torres, and there could be a huge list, but they didn't do that with Kepa. Petr Cech, one of the best goalkeepers that's ever lived, and Chelsea legend. He's been working hard with Kepa. Tommy T come in, and he's been working hard with him. And they've injected some real confidence into Kepa. And Kepa's always still been a big part of the team. You see him on the bench cheering at trainings, having a big part in the squad. And he's come in the early stages of such cups as the Carabao Cup. He's come in and he's kept really well. And Mendy went off to AFCON. And I think as a Chelsea fan, I wasn't too worried about, Kepa taking up the role in all forms of the game that we had while Mendy was away, and he kept beautifully. Also, Kepa is an absolute beast with penalties. We've seen that so many times. He just absolutely reads, what the player taking the penalty does, and he comes up with some great saves. So tomorrow, I think Mendy will start. Mendy is the best option. We saw that in the final of the FIFA Club World Cup. Mendy had come back from AFCON, and he walked straight into his spot. Some people, I think, thought that Kepa should get the start in that final due to what he did in the semi, and that he sort of, gets the sort of starts in some of the cups sometimes, and those sort of one-off little competitions. However, Mendy is is the number one. You put him in. It's an important game that Chelsea's taken seriously. You put your number one in. But if it gets towards the end and it's looking like we might go to penalties, don't be shocked. I think Tommy T will keep a sub-3 in case of that, and Kepa will come on if it looks like it's going to go to penalties because, like I said, he's an absolute beast with them, Steve.
Seems like it. And that game is happening, 2:30 a.m. our time? Are you going to watch that, or are you just going to wait for the highlights?
Yeah, no, so it's going to be nice and early, 2:30 a.m. I won't get up to watch it live, but as I do with many of the Chelsea games that happen in those too early of hours to get up when you go to work, I don't look at my phone at all until I've seen the game, so I can't see Facebook, Instagram, anything to spoil it. And I get straight up and give it a watch. You can watch that game on KO if you're here in Australia, you know. So I'll be watching the game. It's going to be good, and I'm really excited for that one. So yeah, how about you? Will you give it a watch, Steve, or are you going to give that a miss?
I'm not sure. I'll see how I go. Got to work early morning, so see how it goes. But speaking of Chelsea,
just wanna,
go on.
I was just going to say, just for any of you out there that you know, want to see or talk about how important this game will be and what it's going to mean for the players. Chelsea and Liverpool have a rich sort of history coming together in finals. Back, you know, for the FA Cup, there was the final back in 2012, just before, you know, that we went off and won the Champions League, and that was a great game. Didier Drogba, you know, all the legends, Frank Lampard, John Terry, all of them back then. You know, the real sort of Chelsea legends that we all talk about and we all love. Well, Chelsea fans love. I don't know about you, Steve.
John Terry.
That was a great game. Yeah. Yes, but just there's been a rich history in these cups and these English cups of these two teams coming together. And I've watched that whole game highlights recently in preparation for this game. And I tell you what, it was an absolute cracker. And I know you were saying earlier, you know, it's not a Premier League or Champions League game and that, but in that game there, they put everything into it. And you got to remember, Chelsea had a Champions League final coming up where we just lost one a few years prior, 2008, to Man United. So, you know, everything, that was the big focus of that season, yet we still put our top team on and went into that game and did pick up injuries from that game that, you know, could have cost us the Champions League final, but that's how important the cups are to us still, that we had all our players out there. Drogba played majority of the game. You know, Matic was out there. He played Mata played a huge part of that game and then rocked up to the Champions League and played a huge part too. We got some injuries in our defence. We had pretty well no centre-backs left after that game, you know, non-injured centre-backs after that game for the Champions League final, but cups matter. And yeah, I will shut up now.
I just think from sort of like a casual Premier League fan's perspective, it's not as important as the FA Cup or the Premier League. It obviously has a lot of value to the clubs themselves, their diehard fans, but, you know, speaking from a casual fan's perspective of the Premier League, it's not a big deal. But speaking of Chelsea, we might segue into the Roman Abramovich. You could call it drama, I suppose, but due to sort of his ties with Vladimir Putin, him being Russian and all, he's sort of stepping down a bit, and he's released a statement. So I'll just give it a quick read. So during my nearly 20-year ownership of Chelsea FC, I have always viewed my role as a custodian of the club, whose job it is ensuring that we are successful as we can be today, as well as build for the future, while also playing a positive role in our communities. I've always taken decisions with the club's best interest at heart. I remain committed to these values. That is why I am today giving trustees of Chelsea's charitable foundation the stewardship and care of Chelsea FC. I believe that currently they're in the best position to look after the interests of the club, players, staff, and fans. So what do you think of that statement from Roman?
Yeah, you know, sort of sums it up quite well. Don't fully understand all the business side of a football club. Obviously, this is going to protect the club, I'm assuming, from whatever is going to go down, you know, with him. So I don't know, like, this is going to be something that will maybe have an effect on the players. I think there's enough senior people in the club like Petacek and such that have high roles in the club that will keep the players, focused on the game tomorrow and away from all of this. But yeah, it might be bad timing. Purely if you want to look on in a soccer sense, the bad timing for Chelsea going into this game. But I think we just want to take this time to mention, just, hope for the best outcome for everyone in the world and a nice, safe and peaceful resolution to everything going on. There's bigger things in the world than soccer. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on from Roman, we were scheduled to talk a bit about Marcelo Bielsa departing Leeds United. He got them to the Premier League from the Championship, which was super impressive. And Leeds United are a very storied club in England. They won a lot of titles back in the day, but they just came off, a big loss. So he is set to depart. So did you have any thing to add on that?
Yeah, it's always sad when you see a manager leave. Like I watched the game last night with Leeds and Spurs, and Spurs played well. Like there's no arguing about that. They looked clinical. Son and Kane linking up beautifully. Impressive stuff. And this season, like they're so hard to stop. And they've now taken the record of most goal contributions together since Lampard and Drogba in one season of the Premier League. But there was some good stuff that I saw there last night with Leeds. Like they still had last night could have ballooned out into a high scoring game with both sides scoring. They had a bit of bad luck there, hitting the woodwork a couple of times. Some chances they just didn't take. Like there was one time there where Hugo Lloris, I don't know what he did with the ball. He got taken off him. There was an open goal. And I think just Leeds are a bit nervy at the moment. They're going through a rough patch and open goal, no keeper inside, and there was an opportunity to take the shot. There was an opportunity to pass and just didn't. And, lost on that. Rafinha to me looked great. And I don't know enough about Leeds. I think Rafinha looking at him would have just been a good player wherever he's gone, but there's no doubt that, he's had a positive effect on him. But in saying that, the defensive structure of the team looked woeful last night. The commentators on the game I was watching were focused in on how there seems to be a thing at Leeds where it's sort of you mark a man and that's your man for the game. And that's, not a bad, thing to implement in general, but it left also opportunities where, a defender for them could have stepped in and cut out a ball or helped out defending, and they didn't because they were marking their man. And Spurs just capitalised on that. Spurs are going through a hard time at the moment. We touched on that in our pro scouting pod the other day. And they're not cemented in the Conte format yet. Yet last night they just looked like, looked like watching prime Real Madrid or something like that, and that was just the result of Leeds, poor defense and good playing on Spurs' behalf. So I think it was bound to happen. What's your take on it all?
Well, they're currently sitting 16th in the Premier League. So they'll have to try and avoid relegation, because I'd love to still have them in the Premier League. They're such a big club, a huge fan base too. So they have to be in the EPL, in the top flight. But we might talk about the actual Premier League title race right now.
Yeah.
So currently it's the top three of Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and then Manchester United in fourth and Arsenal in fifth. So did you want to go through those?
Yeah, I was just going to say Manchester United, I think, not doing themselves any good at the moment, are they? They're not helping. Like, they're in a hard position, but they're not helping themselves with a 0-0 draw against Watford there this morning, this morning our time. And Watford, sitting on a woeful 19 points off 26 games in 19th or second last, if you want to put it that way. How did they not get the victory there? You've got such a great team. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo up front. And I know he's 37, but he's an absolute gun. Bruno Fernandes, no lie, is one of the best players, sort of in the Premier League for the last few seasons. Paul Pogba, great player. But they just struggled. And they don't look like a team that's going to win it this year. Everyone was saying all they needed to do from last season, to win the Premier League was they needed to improve their defense. They needed another centre back, and they signed. I'm not even going to try to say his name. If you would like to step in, the man from Real Madrid, number 19 for United. If you want to get that up and you can pronounce his name, I don't know, can't even say it, Varane or however you say it.
Raphael Varane.
There we go. I knew it was.
That was an easy one.
I was going to say it. I know. I'm just no good with it.
I was like, who are you talking about?
They brought him in. They brought him in. Jordan Sancho got signed. There was so much excitement. Then Cristiano Ronaldo, the return happened. They were, I think, in a good spot to win it. But what I saw from the game last night / this morning, whatever you want to say, there was one opportunity where Fernandes, he did great work in a good position. There was an easy ball through to Ronaldo. Ronaldo would have had the easiest tap in of his career, and Ronaldo, an easy tap in for Ronaldo could be beat 3 defenders and get in on goal. But this was purely an easy tap in. It would have been a goal, and there was no pass. And then we saw later on, a shot from Bruno Fernandes going straight into Ronaldo's back, which you can't help. But there looked like there was something bad going on there, and their mates from Portugal, teammates, and it looked bad. So there's some real big issues there, and I think it's safe to say, now they've played the exact same amount of games as Man City, 27, and they're on 45 points, which is a 21-point gap between them and Manchester City, their Manchester rival. I don't think I can see that happening, Steve. I don't know. Are you seeing something different, or?
I don't know, but just going back to Liverpool from before, the top scorers of the Premier League this season with 70 goals right now. Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah. They were in the AFCON final against each other. They're just such great players to watch. What did you think about that Liverpool team?
It's a good team. There's no doubt about it. Jurgen Klopp, absolute genius. He's come in and done something similar in a sense, to what Pep's done at Man City. He's not just a manager that's come in and created, a good team. He's created like a whole environment, a club. They've got a certain style of play. They buy players that fit that sort of style of play. And we've seen that with Luis Diaz, who got signed from Porto in January. I had the privilege of watching the game against Leeds, the 6-0 win. And that was a great game. And he looked really good in that game. I actually, to be honest, hadn't heard of him before that, but he played really well. It was good to see. So he's now had 5 appearances with 1 goal, and he's pretty young, I'm pretty sure, and he just looks energetic, and he looks like he fits that Liverpool jersey quite well. Him, Salah, and Mane up front, that scares the bejeebers out of me. I'm so scared tomorrow. Chelsea, I think, has one of the strongest defense in Europe at the moment. It hasn't been as strong as it was last season, but we've got to hope that tomorrow it's in fine form, because that's a good attack. Now, touching on Liverpool, if we want to talk in the context of the race for the Premier League title, everyone was sort of saying a few weeks ago, maybe a month or a bit ago, there that Man City had sort of moved away with it. There was a few bad results in terms of Liverpool and Chelsea, and Man City looked strong. However, looking at the table now, City has a game in hand over United. It's only 6 points behind them, so that could well and truly be 3 points. That's 1 win. That's crazy. And Man City, so they had the loss against Spurs, and that's crazy. That was a crazy game. And then this morning, coming up against Everton. Now, Everton's sitting down in 17th. Everton, as we know, just appointed Frank Lampard. They've made some new signings, and Frankie is going to get the job done there, I think, long term. I don't know if it's going to be this season. He's a great manager.
He was very instrumental in that Chelsea rebuild, sort of. He brought in a lot of great players.
He's the reason Chelsea won the Champions League, equally with Tommy T, I think. But in saying that, this morning, in the team he's in, they're in the struggling stage. Man City should be going through and absolutely demolishing them. But it was a goal late in the game after the 80th minute, and it was purely from a bit of a mistake from the defence, and it was a tap in for Phil Foden. Now, whilst in the moment, Phil Foden's a great player, and he looked like he loved it. the fans have been happy they got the result. Pep would have been happy that they got the points, but that's scary. And Pep wouldn't be happy overall because, with those rocky performances, the loss to Spurs, only beating Everton, and now Liverpool potentially only 3 points behind. There's a bit of a race on, isn't there? Man City is going to be nervous. This big lead that they had, it's closing down. And Liverpool, who are in fine form, 6 goals against, Leeds, some good performances then in the Champions League as well. If you just look through the past games for Liverpool, there's been some strong performances there. 3-1 over Norwich City, 2-0 win on Inter, the one I was saying about in the Champions League. Got the job done against Burnley, Leicester. In the FA Cup, they got a win, beat Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Brentford. The last game they didn't win was on the 14th of January, and that was a draw to Arsenal. It's crazy. I'm trying to look. The last loss they had was the 29th of December. So, yeah, Man City, they need to be scared, and they're going to be worried. Pep will be worried.
Just with Arsenal, do you think it's finally working with Mikel Arteta as head coach? Can they sneak back into the top 4 or just into the top 4 in general and then get into the Champions League and get thumped by Bayern Munich probably? What do you think?
I think that's a bit rough, don't you? Arsenal's looking good. And let's have a look. If we have a look, 2-1 win over Wolves. There was a late winner in that one. So I don't think you can be you can't necessarily say it's going to be smooth sailing from here. But still, they got the job done. Got the job done against Brentford as well, 2-1. They played Wolves not too long before that again and got the job done. Yeah, so you start looking through, if you look through the fixtures, they're on the better end now from what there has been. But in saying that, they still got some big wins back there in the Carabao Cup quarterfinals, a 5-1 thumping of Sunderland. And straight after that, they moved into a 5-0 win over Norwich City in the Premier League. So that shows me they've got some firepower in their team. That's good to see. You need that. That's saying Chelsea struggling with scoring goals. But we have seen that, Liverpool and your Man Cities can turn on the goals. So if Arsenal can also employ that, that's going to bode well for them. There's still a bit to go with them. I'd love to see them make it back into the Champions League. Traditionally, they are one of the top teams in England. And I don't think they've fallen out of that category at the moment. The top 4, I think, would be considered, your City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, who at the moment are the top 4. But it's going to be interesting because they're going to have a bit of pressure from West Ham and Tottenham coming up. Tottenham's been in hot form at the moment. But the big thing that's going well for Arsenal is currently in 5th, 3 points ahead of West Ham as well as Tottenham. But the big difference is Arsenal have 2 games in hand over West Ham and Tottenham. So, yeah, what are you thinking they're confidently going to make it through to the Champions League qualifications?
I don't know. It's there's still so many games left, so we'll see what happens. Arsenal are a weird one. They've been a weird club for a few years now, so we're not sure. But speaking of leagues, let's just quickly go through a few of the other leagues around Europe, some of the top 5 leagues. So you got...
do other people care about other leagues? Was it? I thought Premier League was it. Sorry, my mistake.
They have some fan interest, let's just say that. La Liga. So Real Madrid right now sitting on top of the table with 60 points. And just behind them are Sevilla and Real Betis. And, they've played so well this season. Real Betis just keep on winning somehow. I don't know how, but Atleti just overtook Barca for the 4th spot, but Barca still have 2 games in hand and are only 3 points behind. And I think the Xavi effect is real because, he's just changing the culture of the club. It was a bit toxic for a while with the president and, Ronald Koeman, just a different way of approaching coaching. Ronald Koeman would sort of blame the players. You have to hold players accountable, but he wouldn't take any accountability himself for a loss. Or, he was not a great example in the locker room, and it was time for him to leave. So I think Xavi's done such a great job. Have you been following any La Liga at all?
Yeah, I've got a good interest in Barcelona at the moment because, growing up, and when I started sort of my love for soccer, I was around that sort of, 10, 11 years old. And that's when Barcelona were in some great form and had been for many years. So I'm interested, I actually really enjoy seeing a club. I don't enjoy, seeing a club struggling, but I enjoy seeing a club that are struggling, fight their way out of it. And that's what they're doing. And to see a club legend come back and do what he's doing for them, it's going to be a nice story. I just want to ask you, is it top 4 in the La Liga that qualify for Champions League, like the Premier League?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's sort of like Lampard, where he was criticised heavily because people didn't think he was ready for the job. But I think he's going to have a longer leash than Lampard was given, just because he's done a great job so far in La Liga. We've still got a while to go. There have been some tough games,
but I think they're in a good position though, because like you said, 2 games in hand over Atletico Madrid or Atleti, and they're only 3 points behind, so potentially they're 3 points in front of them. Exactly. If all goes well. And what I saw in in the Europa League with Barcelona, they're looking good. And like some people are comparing what Xavi's done there, saying, "Oh, he's implemented the Pep, the Pep style of play," but that's not it at all. He's implemented the Xavi style of play, and I like it. I think where the comparisons with Pep is that it's a style of play that the whole squad seems to understand and know, and it's bloody good.
I think
that's the comparison with Pep.
Yeah, it's sort of Guardiola was, a big part of Messi's success early on, and utilized him like just an absolute weapon. But for the last however many years, this team had just relied on Messi. Messi played 4 or 5 different positions on the pitch. You'd see him back in center mid and then as a striker and then out on the right wing and stuff. And he was insane, obviously. But, now I like that they're, obviously I was cut that Messi left, but now it gives the younger players a chance to step up and for Xavi to actually utilize the style that he's created. In his years in Qatar, he only had a couple of years in Qatar coaching, but they obviously thought he was ready to take on the big job of Barcelona. So we'll see what happens with him. And
I think, I was just gonna say, I think, having the technical ability as a coach, that's important, but also what he brings that, but outside of that, what he brings in terms of he knows the club and understands the club and the culture. That's him mixed in with, you look at PK, Alba, Busquets, those 3, they've been there through all of that. They've played with Xavi. Those 3 with Xavi, there's the right vibes going on there, isn't there?
Definitely. I mean, there was some criticism as well as to how he would approach coaching his former teammates. It's like coaching your friends sort of thing. It's a weird dynamic, but I think those guys in the locker room are professional enough to understand what he's trying to implement. And, a lot of them have taken huge wage cuts just to, see the club, get out of this little struggle they've been in. So it's great to see. But I think we might go to Serie A quickly. And I know AC Milan.
Go before we move on, I just want to get your opinion on this as a Barca fan. You mentioned the wage cuts. I've heard mixed things. So obviously there's a statement that's come out recently where PK said he was in support of Messi leaving because that would financially benefit the club and allow them to move forward, which they have. However, the other side of it is Messi could have stayed if he took a pay cut, a significant pay cut, yes, but he could have stayed. And I know he has such an affection for the club and feels like he was forced out, but he could have stayed, couldn't he?
I don't know. It was a tough situation to begin with. They didn't want him playing for no money either. He's one of the best players in the world, and he deserves to get paid. But the opportunity came up for him to go to PSG. I think he had another offer from maybe Manchester City, but PSG was where he was going to go. So anyway, the whole wage thing, it's going to get better soon. Ideally, I would like Erling Haaland in this team. I don't want to see him go to Real Madrid with Mbappe, because that would just
Sorry, he's
be
going to
terrible.
Chelsea. That's obvious. Is there going to be a swap
They've already
for Lukaku?
wasted funds on Lukaku, so they can't get him in as well. And can I just
Wasted?
say,
You're telling me someone who just stands there and does nothing all day and then complains about the club that he's so opposed, like apparently loves. That's a waste of money, though.
sorry, no, I apologize. But can I just say, Dortmund are a factory for young talent. They've just, if they kept all that talent that they've developed, they would just be one of the best teams in the world. Who's Jadon Sancho, Dembele, Erling Haaland as well. But you still got Marco Reus and Lewandowski, obviously. Imagine if they'd kept all those players.
Goetze was there.
Goetze as well, but it's just, I've never liked seeing Dortmund players go to Bayern. It's not something you like to see, going from one team to their arch rival. It's happened in Barcelona.
It seems like a feeder club, doesn't it?
It's just terrible. Like Luis Figo did it back in the day, going from Barca to Real Madrid, and it was just a betrayal. Nothing, like, you can't say anything more about that. But anyway, let's move on quickly to Serie A. Barca are sort of historical rivals with AC Milan, but it is good to see them at the top of the Serie A table. They're 2 points ahead of Inter, and that's going to be interesting. That is going to be interesting. One match in hand for Inter, and 2 points behind town rivals. That's going to be interesting. It is. It's good to see Serie A, like, the competition for the title actually being there, because for the longest time it was Juventus just dominating that league. And if we go to the Bundesliga, Bayern is still winning, have won since 2012 maybe. Dortmund won it last. I think last time was 2011, 2012, 2011.
But the Bundesliga, it's Dortmund and Bayern, and it's usually just Bayern. But look at this table for Serie A. I'm sorry, I know I say Premier League is the best league in the world, but Serie A is taking a shot at it. There's a title race on for best league in the world, because you've got all the teams in the top four are fluctuating between 27 and 26 games. So there's only one game in hand, and that's for Inter and Napoli. Like we said, AC on 57 points, Inter with the game on hand in 55. But however, Napoli with 26 games, so still one game in hand over AC, they're on 54. So all of a sudden, within the space of that one game, AC could potentially drop down into third. And if you just want to look at the form for the last 5 games, so AC Milan, not too bad. They had 2 draws, 2 wins, and then a draw. Inter not looking as solid, with a draw, loss, then a win. However, Napoli have come from 2 draws to pick up then 3 wins. So they're in some strong form. Did lose to Barcelona there. They got thumped by Barcelona. So that might shake some confidence. However, in Serie A, 3 wins in a row. They've got the best form going off that the past 5 games in Serie A out of the top teams. Juventus is slightly, more out of the race with 27 games. So played the same amount of games as AC Milan, and they're sitting on 50 points. So they're 7 points off the top at the moment. They've still got a bit of a fight. However, Juventus is, you just talked about them, winning the league for so long, and it's sort of not being a competition. However, Ronaldo come, and I think everyone thought that, this is what they needed to get the Champions League victory. It didn't happen. We saw some brilliant things with him there. I, have heard all the rumors, and I'm not sure exactly where I sit on this, but there's thoughts that he hindered the club and held them back. We saw Dybala not, what we've seen of Dybala was sort of diminished when Ronaldo come. But since he's left, we've seen, players like him flourish again. And they're playing really well. So maybe there's going to be a bit of a surge with Juventus. Yeah. Do you think Juventus is going to get the job done this year?
As in win the title?
Yeah. Are they going to give it a shot?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, AC Milan have just been so strong this season. But just coming back to that point of Ronaldo, I would compare that to Messi as well. When those insane talents leave, because they're getting on in age, I suppose you could say that they do hinder the other players. These other players now have a chance to be more creative, or perform their role the way they usually do without that, legend in the club. So it's an interesting argument. But quickly, I just want to look at the Liga table, and PSG are comfortably sitting on top with 62 points, and then followed by Nice, Marseille, and Rennes. So it's like a comfortable win for PSG this season. No one's going to, knock them off from that. I wouldn't think. They've got such a, compare their squad to everyone else in that league. It's just crazy. That front three is, on paper is probably the best in Europe, in the world.
But it's not, though, is it? It's not. And at the start of the year, there was all this hype. PSG is going to win the Premier League. The Champions League. PSG. I'm sorry, I didn't buy into any of it. Don't get me wrong. I saw that team and I was excited. Like, that's an exciting team.
They had a great off season. Donnarumma and Sergio Ramos as well for free. So it's not a bad deal for them.
But it's like I don't know, when I used to play FIFA, when I started playing FIFA, when you start the game and you're sort of struggling financially, like I'd often pick up like a lower club or something like that. Like I'd pick up a club that didn't have crazy money to start with. And you struggle and, you buy players in a suit team you've got and it works. Then when you get towards, you get 10 years into career mode or something, you got all this money and you just start playing every player that's good. It just feels wrong and doesn't work. And I wanted to say, we talked about this the other day in one of the shows there that, it didn't work for Barcelona just buying all the talent. And I think that's what PSG is trying to do here. They've got crazy money and Man City's got crazy money, but Pep buys players that fit Pep's, what he's trying to go for. He didn't go out and buy Lukaku. Lukaku was available. He wanted Harry Kane, and Harry Kane sort of wasn't available. And that's why the job didn't get done. Kane wanted to go, but, they didn't want to let him go, and he didn't get in. Well, there was another really good striker available, but he didn't fit the team, so he didn't buy him. Whereas PSG, anything that's available, they pounce on. Now, you can't be angry at them for pouncing at Messi, because I don't think there is a team in the world that Messi doesn't fit. It's Lionel Messi. And so that's cool. But I don't understand the team. And in League One, I know they're winning the league now by sort of 20 points. Did we see? Yeah, they're winning it by, 16 points. Now, cool. That doesn't mean, I don't see that as meaning anything in that league. No offense to the league. Everyone in that league is a better player than me by, crazy amounts. But you have a 16-point lead.
Are you criticizing this league?
I am criticizing the league. I'm not criticizing the talent of the league. I think there's some real talent in that league. Like, you look through those squads, you got Lyle or Leo, however you want to say it, sitting at 11, who, they played pretty well against Chelsea.
But they're awesome. They're the champions currently. They won the league last season. So yeah.
That's what I mean. You forget PSG. Take PSG out of that league. That's a bloody competitive league. You've got Marcel, Rennes. Rennes last year, they gave Chelsea, a run for their money in the Champions League. We only just got the job done with a crazy goal in the dying, stages of the game from Olivier Giroud that Chelsea should never have sold. Monaco in there, that's a competitive league. And you look at the teams, in second, third, fourth, it's a tight race. Fifth, Monaco then sort of drops off with Monaco in sixth. They're clearly below fifth. But PSG is just a stacked team. I think PSG in any league is going to look crazy, redonkulous because of the money that they've injected in the players. Theoretically, if the team they've got, even with half that team, they've got that money, they should win the league. Like, there should be no losses. They've lost 2 games. They shouldn't lose a game. There should be no draws. There's 5. I don't think that fits right, and that wrecks that league. That league could be a beautiful league and great to watch. But PSG wrecks it for me.
That's just one of those things where it's hard to regulate a lot of things in terms of like ownership and how much money they're pumping into their respective clubs. But you look at that PSG team and it just does look like a FIFA team. It looks like you've pushed up the sliders and just, got the billionaire owner in and he's pumped in money, and you just bought whoever was not even available, just, put it in the team. You got Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Mauro Icardi up front. Marco Verratti, obviously, is a great midfielder, but that team is just a quality team. There's nothing more to say about it. So it's really, really cool to see them together, but they have not been, that front three has not been what we thought they would have been. you know, not like MSN. MSN were great. They have great chemistry together, but it comes back to Mbappe. Did he want to really stay with PSG? Because, you know, he's on his way out to Real Madrid soon. So
even the fact that they're willing to let him go for free, they know he wants to go. You sell any other club in the world, you sell him last year, you make some money for him. Okay, no one wants to let him go. He's a great player. Chelsea didn't sign him. Sorry, as a youth, they said he would never make it. This is all rumored. Who knows if this is true?
Probably true.
But any other club in the world, he's leaving. He's only 22 or something. He's young. You're gonna get crazy money for him. Yeah, if you sell him with 2 years on his contract, you're gonna get crazy more money because clubs know when it gets close, maybe you can push it out. You sell him, you make some money. Okay, we have a great young player. He's going to be probably one of the best in the world one day.
Well, he's a world champion. I think he's one of the youngest to ever score in the World Cup final. That's just insane. It was crazy.
But they didn't sell him because they don't need to financially. Now that blows my head. And no one was going to buy him in the transfer window to score him because why would you spend money on him? He's about to be free. Now, you know what I mean? So that just does my head in. But maybe with PSG, it's sad to see what's happened to Messi. If you have to say, I love Ronaldo, but there's no discrediting Messi. Messi has if you like soccer, you should like Lionel Messi. Yeah. It's sad seeing what's going on there. And I don't know if it's a thing of, maybe just he's sad with what happened with Barcelona. But in terms of PSG, he's not in form and he's copying a lot of the blame for it. But I don't think you can blame him. There's so many other issues going on at that club.
Yeah, with that Messi and Ronaldo argument, I'm so over that. It's been going on for, it really started in Barcelona with and Real Madrid, obviously, when they were arch rivals, and then the media just hyped it up from there. They are very different players. So yeah, that you can compare the goals and all that, but it's just they're two great players, two amazing players, all-time greats. Let's just enjoy the last few years of their careers. And yeah, they're just so great to watch. But I think we're about to wrap up soon though, because we've been going for quite a while now.
We have been, but I think everyone out there, tomorrow morning, cup final, Chelsea Liverpool. Let's just get a score prediction from you, Steve. You've got no bias in this game. What's the score going to be? First thing that comes to your head, nice and quick.
2-1 Liverpool.
2-1 Liverpool. Any comment on scorers? What, Mo Salah probably?
Probably, yeah. It's most likely. What about you? What's your prediction?
Well, I'm going to go for 1-0 because I think if we're going to get them, it's going to have to be a defensive performance. And I think if we can hold them out to maybe the 60th minute, something like that, they're going to start trying to throw the kitchen sink at Chelsea. And that's going to be scary. Holy, that front three, we talked about it. Diaz, Mane, and Salah, scary stuff. But I think we hold them out to then. Maybe, Christian Pulisic is on there, Kai Havertz, Mason Mount. We'll get the job done with a counter. Maybe Timo Werner in there for some pace. As long as he doesn't have to put the ball in the net, it's all good.
That's right. Well, we might wrap up here. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back maybe next week again.
That's it. And if you like what you hear, like, subscribe, follow, talk about us, and catch us next time.